In the last video, we have seen how at the rate track decorator makes a reactive property. In this video, we will see how at the rate API decorator takes it a step further, how it helps a parent component to proceed ahead and talk to the child component. So without wasting any time further, let's proceed with the video.
Cut me down to size.
So first things first, what is at the rate API decorator? At the rate API decorator makes a property or a method public. So it makes it accessible to the parent component. Now, before I proceed ahead, let me tell you that in LWC, we can have parent-child component relationship where we can have one LWC inside another, where the outermost LWC is nothing but a parent LWC and the inner LWCs are child LWC. This not only helps to communicate between them, but it increases the possibility of reusing a build LWC for more than once. So if we are using at the rate API decorator inside the child LWC, then it becomes automatically public and parent LWC can use those public properties. Now, without at the rate API, all the class fields are private by default, even when you are making them reactive with at the rate track. Still, they will be private and they are not accessible outside the component. But if we are using at the rate API, then actually the parent component can pass on values to the child component. This is a way of parent-child communication. Now, at the rate API properties are also reactive. So just like at the rate track are reactive, at the rate APIs are also reactive. The only thing is at the rate API will also make it public. So because of that, when the parent component updates the value, the child automatically re-renders it. Now, without at the rate API, child properties are private and parent cannot read or set them. But with at the rate API, child property is public and parent can pass data into it. A key rule is data always flows down, that is from parent to child using at the rate API and never the other way around. Though if you want to pass on values from child to parent, there is another way we deal it, and we will talk about that later down the line. Now, how to use at the rate API and what's the basic syntax of it? The first step to do that is in the child component, we will import at the rate API, just like we have imported at the rate track, and then we will decorate the property. Then in the parents HTML, we can pass the value as an attribute on the child tag. For example, here you can see this is a greeting card.js where we have imported API. So definitely it's the child component. And here we have decorated username and role both with at the rate API decorator. And this is the HTML part of it where we are using these variables to show the values. Now in the parent component, we can actually use this LWC. So automatically this will become the child of it and we can pass the value of these separate decorated properties as the attribute of that specific LWC. Now let me show you that practically. So guys, here we are in our VS Code and here if you can see, I have created two different Lightning Web components. The first one that I have created was greetingcard.html. In this greetingcard.html, all that I did is create a div. I have mentioned a class name to it just to match what I have shown you on your slides, but let it be. It can be a simple div because I am not creating any CSS right now. Here I have h2 and p tag, where in h2 I am mentioning hello, comma, and the username variable, and in the p tag I am mentioning role and a role variable. Though in the JS part of it, I haven't created any variable yet. If I talk about the meta file of it, I haven't exposed it because it is the child component. And this is one more thing that I want to mention to you, that if you are having parent and child components, then you need not to expose the child component. If you are exposing the parent component, it will automatically show these child components over there. So that's why I need not to expose it. Other than this, I have also created a parent greeting card LWC where I have just created a lightning card. And in the JS part of it, I haven't written anything. In the meta file, I have exposed this parent component to an Lightning app page. Now, first of all, how I can use this LWC. So if we talk about the cases, whenever we create a Lightning Web component, everywhere we use camelCase, right? It starts with small letters, and as soon as any new word will come in, the first letter of the new word will automatically be in uppercase. But when you are using it in HTML, you have to use kebab-case. Kebab-case is actually works like kebab, like you have seen kebabs in that rod, right? Something like that. So here we keep the words like a kebab case. So for this greeting card component, I should start whenever I am using my own created Lightning Web component or custom Lightning Web component, it starts with C. Then we used to provide this minus sign. Then the first word of the LWC. So for us, it's greeting. Then again a minus. So whenever a new word comes in, a minus sign will be there. So it will appear to look like a kebab. And then card, and that's it. So this is how I actually used a child component inside a parent, right? So now the thing is we need to pass on values. And here we try to understand those API decorators. If I come to the child greeting card, you see we have decided to have two variables. So I will declare these two variables in the JS, username and role. Now I want to expose it. If I want to use it in the parent, or if I want to pass the value from the parent. Now, if I try to do that, it won't work. Let me show you that. So here, if I try to use username and let me pass Amit Kumar, let me save this. Let me first deploy my child component and then let me deploy the parent component. Now let me go to the org. In my org, here is the app practice page that we have created. Let me edit this page so that we can have Lightning App Builder. On the Lightning App Builder, I will just close this standard one and drag my parent greeting card here just below this. Now, if I save this, go back to my page and refresh it, I'm able to see this new card. And here it is printing hello and role, but no value of the username and role is given, right? Even I'm passing Amit Kumar here to this username when I'm using the child component, but this value Amit Kumar is not coming to the child. And the reason is this username is not public, is not available to the parent. How to make that public? So come to the JS part of the child component. And here, first of all, I will import API just like I have imported track. If you remember, we have done that in the previous video. And if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you to go and watch that video also. Now, here, I will make this username public by using @API. Now, let me save this. Let me deploy this. And in fact, let's do the same for the role as well. And now let me deploy it again. And in the parent, when I'm actually providing the value to the child, I can use another attribute and provide the value. So as you can see, I have passed both the values over here as we use attributes to any tag. So Lightning component becomes different tags and the values, the @API values declared in the child can be used as attributes and we can pass on values to them. Of course, we can pass static values to them just like I have passed here, or we can create another variable in the parent and pass those variables as well. But for now, this much is enough. Let me deploy the parent and let's go back to the org. Now I need to refresh it. So I will just open the inspect window, right click on the refresh and click on empty cache and hard reload. And now you can see these values, Amit Kumar and Senior Salesforce Consultant, the name and the role is actually passed from the parent component to the child component. And that's what @API does. So the parent child data flow with @API. Here, the parent owns the data. It passes the value down to the child via @API properties, and the child displays or uses the data. Here, if you don't want to pass on constant values or literal values that I just like I have did, you can also create another variable in parent just I have shown to you over here. Now, what will be the difference if we will use literal values or if we will use expressions? So there are two ways we can do that, as I told you. When we are using expressions, the value is actually coming from the JS. So in the parent of the JS, you can actually work with the data. You can actually change those data whenever it is required, and this will update dynamically, right? But if we are using static, it will be literal, it will be constant, and it will be fixed. Now, a tip over here, use expression values when the data is dynamic and use string only when it is fixed. If we talk about real life use cases, there are very rare cases where we provide literal values, but yeah, there are cases where we do that. But generally, we use dynamic ones. Now, at the rate API methods, we can use at the rate API with methods as well. And those methods will become public methods. So in child component, we can have methods which are decorated as at the rate API, making them exposed to the parent, and then the parent can call those methods as and when required. So here a simple example, if you see here a alert box JS is there where a show alert method is decorated with at the rate API. Hence this method will become public, and from the parent you can actually call this specific method. But for that you have to first select that specific LWC, child LWC, whose public method you want to call. And for that we actually use query selector method of the template. Now let me show you that practically. Now to show you something like that, what I will do is I will have a small private variable over here, let's suppose status, and let me provide a value to it, by default value to it as active. Okay. Now, by default, this value will not be shown over there in the HTML, right? So what I will do here is I will use a template if. So here I will use template if. So what I'm going to do is you can see this paragraph of status, it is inside this template if, right? Now I'm also going to create one more variable as let's suppose show, and by default I will make it false. Here what I'm going to do is I will use show over here. So it will show the status only when the value of show is true. By default, I made the value of show as false. So what will happen? This template, if true, will become false, and this whole template will not be shown. But I will create here a show method. And inside this show method, I will change the value of show to true. And I will make this show method as at the rate API. That means I will make it public. Now, I know this is not a very good logic or very great logic over here, but we are not talking about logic. We are talking about how a method is exposed. Right now, in the child component, there is a show method which is actually setting the value of the show variable as true. And because when it is setting the value of it as true, the status is shown. So in fact, let me change the name of the method as show status. Let me deploy it again. And just to prove you, I am going back to the org showing that the status is not visible. So I will right click on the refresh button and click on empty cache and hard reload. And you can see there is no status showing over here. Now in the parent, I want to show the status. And how I will do that is I will have a button over here in this card. So let me have a footer as well. So here I have added a footer, and inside the footer, I will add a button. I will label this button as show status. I will not have any title. So here the variant will be brand. The label is show status, and I will add a handler as handle show click. Now on this handle show click in the parent JS, I will add this handler, and inside this handler, I'm going to call the method of the child. In the child, I have already exposed it to at the rate API, right? So that show status method will be available here. But how to call that show status? So first of all, we need to tell which specific child LWC we are talking about. Because in this HTML, there can be multiple child, right? So we will find out which child we are talking about. So for that, we will use this dot template dot query selector. Now inside this query selector, we can mention the name of the child component, and then we can call that specific method. So the method name is show status. I'm just copying this method name and here I'm calling it. So this dot template dot query selector, inside the query selector, we will pass the name of the child LWC just like we mentioned it in the HTML of the parent, and then we can call the specific method that we are talking about. Now let me just deploy this. Also the child, to be sure that both are deployed or the current version of both are deployed. And let's go back to the org. Now right click here, click on empty cache and hard reload. And I can see this show status. Let me click on this. And you can see it is showing that status over here, right? So this is just to show you that how you can expose or how you can make a method public in the child, and that can be called from the parent. Now rules and restrictions of @API. First thing, never modify an @API property inside the child. Mutating an @API property directly in the child causes error. So make sure you don't do that. You cannot combine @API and @track. When you are exposing anything and when you are making anything public with @API, by default it becomes reactive. So no need to tell with @track, right? You cannot say that this specific thing is public as well as private. Default values are allowed, and I have shown you that we can provide default values with @API when you are declaring any specific variable public. That time you can provide a default value to it so that in case when the parent forgets to provide the value and when the parent is not providing the value over there, it can take that default value. As I told you, @API is reactive by default. So when the parent updates an @API value, the child automatically re-renders it, and you need not to use @track along with it. And use @API for public interface, not internal state. So whenever you want anything to become public, whenever you want any specific property of the child to be called or to be passed from the parent, then only make it @API, otherwise don't. Now, this is a sample example over here where I am showing you how a simple child component can be used multiple times with multiple values. Here, if you see the child component product card, we have provided product name, price, and badge, three different properties over there with @API. So all of them are public. In the HTML part of it, product name is in heading, price, and badge are actually used to show the price and badge of that specific product. And in the HTML part of the parent, you can see we have used two times. This specific child we have called two times over there, and both the time we have provided different data to it. So as I told you, when you are using LWC, one of the greatest capability of it is reusability, and this parent-child way of communication helps to do that. Now, when to use which? When you are going to use @API and when you are going to use private properties or no decorator or maybe with the track, right? So if we here we are basically talking about no decorator, right? So if we talk about who can set no decorator, so only the component itself can set no decorator. If you remember the status, it was no decorated, right? If we talk about @API, parent component can set it. Private, if we talk about no decorated field or private field, they are reactive. Yes, they are, but if they are primitive ones. But if we talk about @API, they are always reactive. Private fields are not visible to parents, whereas API properties are visible to parents. If we talk about private fields, you can modify them from child, but if you talk about @API properties, you can never modify it from the child. It will be read only. If we talk about use case, so it is internal state, counters, toggles. It is for internal state, it is for counters, toggles, or whatsoever basic private variables you want to use internally in the component. But if we talk about the use case of @API, it is for the configuration that you need to pass from the parent to the child. So always think of @API as the component's public contract which expose only what the parent needs to configure. Now, best practices for @API. It exposes only necessary properties. So keep internal state private. I'm telling it again and again, and keep that in your mind that if you want any state internal, make it private. Don't expose it with at the rate API. Set sensible default value. So when you are using at the rate API, please always try to provide a default sensible value to it so that if the parent forgets to provide the value, it has some value over there. Never write to at the rate API inside the child because I told you it generates error. And remember the naming convention, the camel case that you have to use in JS and the kebab case that you have to use in the HTML template. Now, there is a hands-on practice which we are going to make now. What is the objective of it? We have to build a reusable employee badge. So we will have a reusable employee badge. So we will have some employee badge name of LWC, which is basically used to provide employee badges. And this will be our child component, and we will have properties like name, department, and role. And it will display these three values using the HTML template where the parent is going to provide these values. Now, the expected output will be something like this, where will be three styled badge cards shown as shown on the screen, each with different name, department, and role. But there is a bonus challenge. We also need to have is active Boolean, right? So we will use a badge over there with active shown as green badges and inactive shown as red badges. So this is something that we have to create now. So guys, here we are in our VS Code. I have created two LWCs again. The first LWC is employee badge, which is the child LWC, and the next one is employee badge parent, which is the parent LWC. In the parent LWC, I just have a lightning card and a div section for the body. The title of the card is employees, and the utility identity icon I have used over here. Now I have exposed it to the app page and nothing in the JS. If I talk about the child LWC, which is employee badge LWC, in the JS part I have not written yet, but in the HTML part I have added few things. For example, I have added three paragraphs over here, each to show employee name, department, and role. Here I have used SLDS, that is Salesforce Lighting Design System, and some classes to make the text appear medium, small, and as normal text. Now, we are going to discuss about all these SLDS stuff in the upcoming videos, but right now we are not focusing too much on it. If we talk about the status where we need to show badge, so I am using lightning badge, which is a predefined LWC. In the lightning badge, I'm specifying whether it should appear as green or red color. The label of this badge is status. Now, employee name, department, role, and status will be four public properties of this employee badge. So let me quickly create them. So here in the JS, I will have employee name, department, role, and status. And of course, I need to make them public. So I will import the API decorator, and I will use at the API in front of them. Now, all these values I will provide from the parent. Now, one more catch over here is, here you can see I'm using template if true, right? And there are two things, is active and is inactive, right? So this is active and is inactive will actually decide whether the status is active or not, and depending upon the value of the status. So here I'm going to create this is active and is inactive, but how? I'm going to create them as method, as getter methods. So here in the LWC, I will have get and then mention is active. And here I will check the status. If the status is active, definitely it will return true, right? And if the status is not active, it will return false. The same goes for is inactive. So you can actually create getters like them, and you can call these getters directly like variable. Here for inactive, I will use inactive, and that's it. Now, let me provide and let me pass these values from the parent, but before that, let me deploy this. Now I will go to the parent, and in the parent, I need to provide three different employee information. So I will use three different child components. Actually, three child components, same child components, but with different values. So let me do that. It will be C employee badge, and then I will provide these values, just like this. So for our example, which we have decided in the slide, let me change these values. So as you can see, I have actually used the child LWC here thrice with three separate values to them. Now let me deploy this as well. Go to our org, and here first of all I need to use, or I need to actually add that specific component over here in this page. So I will edit this page. Here on the left side I will collapse the standard one, and now I need to use employee badge parent. So I will drag and drop it just below shopping cart, and now let me save this. Let me take you back to the page and refresh it. So you can clearly see I'm using them thrice, right? With these values and active inactive values as well. Though I'm not using any border or boundary right now because I don't want to make it more complex for you. Definitely, when we will talk about SLDS, we will talk about these things in detail. Now, by any case, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. It will help to grow our channel. It will help to increase the reach of this specific video, to reach out some other trailblazers like you. It really matters for me a lot. And of course, if you are not going to do that, YouTube algorithm is going to vanish this video. You will not get those videos in your home tab. So please make sure to click the like button. If you have any kind of question related to this, don't forget to ask the question in the comment. I'm going to answer that over there. And if the answer is too lengthy, I'm going to create a separate video on it. If you haven't subscribed the channel yet, don't forget to subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon so that you can get the notification of any new video that I'm publishing. That marks the end of this video. See you soon in the next video. Till then, thank you and take care.
They cut me down, down to size.